Auditor General is warning the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, risks not being profitable and viable if immediate steps are not taken to reduce the transmission losses. The 2020 audited account identifies theft and high transmission losses for the loss in revenue. We'll bring you more on this shortly, but the ECG in the same report has admitted it bought faulty and not fit for purpose prepaid meters and also conducted valued at 60 million Ghana cedis. The Auditor General in the 2020 report of public boards, corporations and other statutory institutions is demanding the officer responsible for the procurement be held liable and made to pay the amount if the meters purchased 5 years ago are not deployed. My colleague Elton Bobe has been studying the report and filed this.
Section 7 of the Public Financial Management Act 2016 requires that a principal spending officer of a covered entity shall ensure the regularity and proper use of money appropriated in that covered entity. But according to the Auditor General, this provision was violated in the Electricity Company of Ghana decision to procure prepayment meters and hard-drawn aluminium bar stranded conductors amounting to 59.1 million Ghana cedis between 2014 and 2016. However, these items were either partially issued or have not been issued at all, but are kept in the stores till date at the time of the audit. The lapse, according to the Auditor General, was as a result of the management failure to issue the old stock before purchasing new meters. It says huge capital investment had been locked up, which could have been used for other pressing needs of the company. The report recommends to management to ensure that the prepayment meters and conductors are issued out to the users, failing which the amount involved should be covered from the officer who engaged in the procurement. The Electricity Company of Ghana, in a response, admitted some technical challenges were identified during the initial stage of installation and as a result could not be used for the intended purpose. Management, according to the report, had before the audit visit constituted a committee to engage the suppliers on the identified technical challenges, and the report is with the board for the next line of action.
So as you heard in that report, the Auditor General is not happy with the ECG for allowing the meters to go waste. The Energy Minister is also unhappy and describes the development as a clear case of irresponsibility.
In my office, daily, you hear MPs, go to your MP and let him write to the minister. So every day, we receive about 3, 4, 5 requests. Give me 3,000 meters for my constituents. Every day. I'm shaking, even though I'm an MP. It means two things. The constituents are willing, because they are all prepaid meters, the constituents are willing to pay for the services they consume. But we, the management, have been so bad at delivering something that even Ghanaians want. And prepayment is one example. They pay for the service before they use the service. And if the people who pay the service before they use the service are clamoring for meters, and ECG cannot deliver the meters, such that it says go to the minister, there's an abdication of responsibility. If nearly 30% of the electricity that is given to you is not accounted for through your sales, then just imagine every 1,200 or every 300 megawatts energy you claim to sell, you cannot account for nearly 100. Then it is the best business model ever, because such a company should never be in profit. Because the internal rate of return, I don't see a business that wants an internal rate of return 30% and would not be and a monopoly like you with an internal rate of 30%, you should be swimming in cash. But what do we find? ECG is always probably in debt. ECG, for the southern part of Ghana, Energy Commission has given you the license and a monopoly. Yet still, 30% of what you sell cannot account. So that mentality that we are ECG because we are a monopoly, whether we lose or not, we'll run back to the government because government doesn't like doing so, and we'll go back to the politicians. That inherent thought means that the politicians should be actively involved.
My colleague Elton Bobe joins me via Zoom with more on the findings. Elton, you have been looking at the findings and recommendation. What does the AG find specific to power losses and revenue?
So let's look at the reports, especially in Section 291. The report says that ECG, in its own strategic themes for the year 2020, said that it was going to improve network reliability, improve operational efficiency. It was also going to take aggressive system loss reduction and improve organizational culture. Now, ECG strategic plan, according to the Auditor General, is to reduce system loss to 17.5% by the end of 2020, but that is what we are seeing now. According to
Hello, Elton. Well, I seem to have lost connection to my colleague Elton Brobe there, who was sharing us details of the Auditor General's report on the 2020 report of ECG. Elton, you mentioned their target was 17%. What did they reach eventually?
Yes, so at the end of 2020, at the time of the auditing, ECG could do 24%, which is far higher than the targeted 17% at the end of 2020. What this means is that they made a loss of 24% on their profit margin. And for the Auditor General, this will have a negative impact on the ECG's and ECG as a viable and a profitable company. And he cited transmission losses and electricity theft as the major cause for the 24% loss that ECG experienced in 2020. Now, the Auditor General is advising management to determine the losses which are due to technical and commercial challenges so as to deploy measures to reduce those losses. Now, ECG has also been saying that now what they're doing is to localize the losses. So they are looking at districts, they're looking at the regional level before they come to the national. And they've also acquired some analyzers and voltage recorders, power flow software that can handle modeling of both balanced and unbalanced loads that will help them address the issue of technical losses.
Elton, thank you very much for bringing us those details from the Auditor General's 2020 report on the Electricity Company of Ghana. Let's go on to the other Zoom connection now and speak to Kwame Jantua, who is an energy expert. We're grateful for your time here on Joy News Prime. Huge losses being brought to the fore by the Auditor General. Let's start with the transmission losses. Is it possible to achieve zero power loss, or there's an acceptable range within which the ECG can operate?
Good evening. There is definitely a certain range that you would lose some electricity, that is through transmission. But when you look at the kind of losses that we're experiencing, it's quite appalling. And ECG is just priming themselves up for privatization. And some of us who have discussed this privatization thing and stood by them, makes it very, very difficult for us to, support them when it comes up. Because looking at the kind of losses, you'd have thought by now they would have been able to clear out technical losses and commercial losses. But it looks as if they are still doing the same thing, and it doesn't bode well. It doesn't bode well at all. Something has to be done. And for me, I think EOCO should move in. EOCO should move in to see if there's any of the ECG staff who have connived. Because look, they gave out electrical materials amounting to 11.581 million CDs,
Indeed,
which was given on loan to 8 benefiting companies. What was that reason for? EOCO should move in and try and find out what has gone wrong. But I believe this is a recipe for privatization by the government.
On the issue of losses, for instance, at the commercial level, what can be done? Because technical losses are obviously due to technical reasons and perhaps would require some investment. But when it comes to the commercial, losses, how can we address this?
Within ECG, I'm sure they have a section that looks after collection of used power that they have supplied. Maybe we should look at how that should be. Maybe we should probably transfer it to a much efficient company. Maybe one of these audit firms, Pricewaterhouse or one of these audit firms, to actually collect, put it in place and collect, because they don't seem to be doing a good job in collection. And because they're not doing a good job in collection, it's affecting their revenue stream, which is not acceptable, because as it's affecting their revenue stream, it's going to affect the production of electricity too. And it's going to also bring doomsday back if we are not careful. So the whole value chain should be looked at, and anybody who's found culpable should be charged. Now, you asked the question, I asked myself the question, what is the responsibility of the board? Some say it's not an executive board. The fact that it's not an executive board doesn't mean they don't have responsibility to ECG. They have the right to question the chief executive of ECG if things aren't going right. that responsibility is on the board's head. So nobody can say that because they're on the executive board, they can't answer these questions. Why did the president put them in? The president put them in to make sure that things are done right. And if things are done right, fingers should be pointed at the board too.
You are against privatization. You have stood by the ECG and advocated that they manage this by themselves and do so properly. With these revelations, do you stand by that, or you agree with those who say private sector participation is the ultimate solution?
I think if we're going to privatize, we should look at Ghana first. I am for, Ghanaians taking over some of these institutions, because what do we get? We get foreign companies in, and it's export of dollars. Those dollars can stay here if it's a Ghanaian company. And I would love that Ghanaian companies also build capacity. And there are companies in this country that can handle ECG. Let's look at them and bring them on the fore. And let's take politics out of it. Let's not say that, they are not an MPP supporter or they're not an NDC supporter. No, let's see how best we can get our own to handle such things and handle them properly and monitor and police them.
Hold the line for me, sir. You mentioned the board. Today, a newly constituted board was inaugurated by the Energy Minister, Dr. Matthew Poku-Prempeh. We're joined by a member of the board, Arno Dompreh, who is also the Majority Chief Whip in Parliament. Thank you very much, sir, for your time here on Joine's Prime. Obvious revelations made today by the Minister, who expressed, his unhappiness about some of these revelations and then charged the board to address them. First of all, how are you receiving this? And what is your plan to correct some of these abnormalities or irregularities?
Okay, let me say that, first of all, there is a board there. I'm a member of the board. There are a number of other members of the board. The challenges bedeviling ECG is public. Okay, you can see the details are not known, but matters of related to debt, legacy debt, inefficiency, and the losses are all known. Okay. Now, this, if it is true as it's been told that the public Auditor General has captured these details, then that would be the issue. There is a concern. I am aware of a scheduled board meeting, which is supposed to be the first board encounter. Mainly because it's captured as, because there's an array of concerns that the board will have to look at. But because it's captured as a report of the Auditor General, we may have to prioritize and look at that also in perspective and take some action. I think it would not, be lost on the board. It's something that will be looked at. There are also general concerns about the nature of meters that are installed and their quality and all that all comes in wake. So this may just be an aspect of the whole concerns about meters. And so I'm confident it will be looked at in broader perspective.
Indeed, there are other areas, for instance, with the supply of materials that was done with no proper agreement. So, yes, you're right when you say there are other aspects that needs to be addressed. But there are recommendations as well, for instance, prosecution for officers involved in this. Is this something the board is keen on and getting management to implement? And the other recommendations about forming committees, audit committees, for instance, within the institution?
Well, I can tell you the president is very upbeat about the president, the minister, during the inauguration of the board, for instance. I have the minister loud and clear, and he is also somebody who is very deep into happenings at the ECG. And so it's not like we don't know what is happening. Once there's a recommendation coming from the Auditor General, it will have to be looked at because they are the professionals. And the Auditor General's report, normally has to come to Parliament. I don't know which of the report this revelation is coming from, but be that it may, I can tell you that we are not going to put this behind under the carpet. We are very resolved, determined to let ECG become what we are all desirous of seeing, because the lamentations, one after the other, is becoming and becoming. And so the president has reposed confidence in us. Don't forget, the chairman, he was the chairman before, and for institutional memory and his capacity in financial management and the in-depth knowledge in the sector. It brings all these to weight. I am confident that something significant, there will be some changes.
Thank you very much.
Which positively will reflect in the happenings at ECG.
We are grateful you could join us, sir. That is a member of the newly constituted board of the ECG, Frank Anadon-Pre there. He's also the Majority Chief Whip in Parliament. Mr. Jantua, you're on the line with us. In 30 seconds, your reaction and final words.
I take what Mr. Don-Pre said, that it shouldn't be swept under the carpet. And we should try as much as possible not to get back to where ECG was, because it looks as if we're sliding back into the old ECG. And let's try and do things right, because power is development. And without power, we are not going anywhere.
Thank you very much. That's an energy expert, Mr. Kwame Jantua, joining us with his thoughts on the revelations made by the Auditor General on the Electricity Company of Ghana. And Mr. Anadon-Pre is on the line just to give us some brief reaction. Mr. Anadon-Pre, just some 30 seconds of your thoughts on how you're proceeding as a board. Mr. Anadon-Pre, if you can hear me, just your brief comments on how you're proceeding as a board as we wrap up on this conversation. We seem to have lost Mr. Don-Pre on the line. You're watching Joy News Prime.